Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from KFAN. We've got Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com and Chip Scoggins from the Minnesota Star Tribune. We are presented, as always, by our great partners at Jack's Cafe. Real quickly, guys, Jack's Cafe, I don't even know if you know this, Chip. Jack's usually gives us their tickets, right? They usually give us those 2 tickets that are right down there in the end zone, and we give them away to a listener. And they usually bring, a lot of times they bring a kid, sometimes they bring a spouse, and it always creates a great memory, right, along with the parking and everything that goes with it. So I got the text from Bill after the episode posted on whatever day that was, Tuesday, and said, let's do the tickets again. So I text Burnsy, I say, what are we going to do? And then I just kind of forget about it, as I am wont to do.
Classic.
So Saturday morning, I pull up my Gophers app because I said, well, I'm going to do this quick and just give these away. If somebody wants to come down, it's a nice day. 11 o'clock should be easy to get in and get out. I discovered something. Jack's Cafe doesn't just have 2 tickets. Jack's Cafe has 6 tickets. And Bill gave us all 6 tickets. So 3 different people or pairs got to, and, right away, the old joke is if you leave 4 Twins tickets on your dashboard, you're going to come back, the glass will be broken, and there'll be 4 more left there. That's an old joke, but it's still a good one.
Yeah.
Within 7 minutes, we had 3 people say, I'm in. I want to bring my son. I want to bring my wife who's pregnant. I want to bring this guy who loves Goldie. And so they're also very good seats again, lower level, I should add. So I just wanted to, off the top, say thank you to Bill and Jack's Cafe because 3 different sets of people got to pop in and watch what was an electric game. And Chip, I know you have a lot of thoughts on the Northwestern State game. What were your 3 favorite things that you saw in that game, Chip?
Well, number one is what Bill did. Probably the 3 people that got to go, that was my 3 favorite things because I told you guys I didn't cover that game because I knew what was going to happen. It was obvious there was nothing that was going to be able to be gleaned from that game.
Chip Scoggins, the Oracle.
I mean, you couldn't. I don't say nothing's pointless, but they it'd been more competitive if they had an inter squad scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to, and then I wanted to watch Iowa State, which is the same time as Gophers kickoff. So I taped the Gopher game, as I texted you guys. I fully intended to watch it afterwards. And when I checked Twitter and it was 1,000,000-0 after 1 quarter and 1.5 million to nothing at halftime, I said it was worse than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to waste a second, of my beautiful Saturday rewinding to watch, an inter squad scrimmage, basically what it was.
Burnsy?
There's my takeaways.
My favorite line from this game is going to be, for whatever you think of Northwestern State, of which I would agree the 3 of us don't think much of them. Imagine being Alcorn State, the team they beat by 10 points in week 1, watching that and being like, how bad are we? How bad are we that we lost to this team that is down 59-0 at halftime?
Yep.
The thing is, I saw a lot of the commentary, I guess you'd call it, on Twitter about who they're playing. And a lot of teams play FC. The second week of college football season is sort of a dud. You have this big build-up, and there's good games week 1. Week 2 is when you kind of schedule these games. A lot of Power 4 teams played FCS teams. I don't know that anybody played FCS teams this poor, that's this downtrodden, I guess is the word to say. Ideally, if you want to play an FCS team, you'd play one better than this, so you get a little something out of it. But I understand the circumstances where the game got changed and they were in a pinch to find someone. But it was, you knew going in that your backups were going to be playing by the first quarter, and I guess it's good.
Who would win on a neutral field, Chip? The Gophers' opponent in Northwestern State, or your Tennessee Vols playing East Tennessee State this past weekend?
I would say probably ETSU. I can't imagine there's a worse team.
There has to be if Northwestern State was 1-0.
No, a worse team. The worst team that I've seen the Gophers play in my time. I'm sure that I'd have to think back, but it's probably the weakest that they played.
And what's fascinating to me also is that I think the Gophers' 66 points were the 6th highest scored in the Big Ten this past weekend.
Crazy.
That's my
Weren't there a lot of shutouts
stat.
too? Weren't there a lot of shutouts? It's just.
And here for context, because you're right. There's no putting varnish on it. It was a waste of everybody's time, and Darius Taylor got hurt. So, he could get hurt in any game, so that's, kind of irrelevant a little bit, but you really just, like, my key for the Fox 9 pregame show was make it a clean sheet. And Pierre said, "You mean they need to shut him out?" I said, "No, I don't care about that. They obviously did. I just don't want to have a bunch of injuries." And Darius Taylor, Jalen Logan-Redding, Zaquan Bryan, Emmanuel Carmo all left the game at various points. 2 of them didn't return. We'll see about if Logan-Redding could have. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's too bad. I think more of these games are going to go away in the new college football. And one of the things is, people have been saying, well, like you said, you schedule a better one. There really aren't that many great ones, first of all. And I was reminded of this when I went on Dom Izzo's show up in Fargo, WDAY, from this very chair.
Love Dom.
Great guy. This North Dakota State does not have a Power 4 game this year. And the reason
nobody wants to play him.
People got sick of losing to him. And, the contracts that were done 10 years in advance in the Craig Bowl era, after they, beat Iowa, beat Kansas State, beat Minnesota. I think they lost to Colorado a couple years ago, but it was close in maybe Deion Sanders' first year. People finally got smart and said, the plucky team from Fargo, we're not scheduling them anymore. We're not going to do that. So even the Bison are like, they were even saying, like, that used to be, it was their Super Bowl, besides winning the FCS championship, because they could go invade some town that, if they weren't smart college football fans, didn't know it was about to hit them, and come away with a victory. And they don't have that. I don't know if they have that next year. I'm sure maybe they do. But so I think that's just one factor or one rebuttal to say, hey, it'd be great. And Minnesota wouldn't have scheduled them, of course, but that's kind of the way that it's been going here recently, is these better FCS teams are not getting the calls that they used to come make $1 million and maybe beat your team on your own field.
Yeah, the Jackrabbits nor the Bison are ever going to get a call anymore, because there's no upside if you're a Big 10, Big 12, whoever the team is. If you beat them, it's, oh, great, you were supposed to. If you lose, it's haha, look at you. So they do play North Dakota, I think, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time. The Fighting Hawks will come down for a couple of games. So they do play a regional FCS opponent. If the argument is, we'll take on a St. Thomas team, okay, take on that D3 iteration. I will never say a positive thing about St. Thomas on this podcast, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Never.
Wow. Should we unpack that a little bit? Do we need
Former
to unpack
Mayak guy, I refuse to talk positively about the Tommies. And that game would have been just the same as it was if the Tommies would have come into Huntington Bank Stadium.
Well, be careful during basketball season, because, Chip is trying to write Johnny Towers' next book. So be careful. Be careful. He's a great guy. He is a good guy, but
he's a phenomenal human being.
And their new stadium, by the way, looks real nice.
We
were all over there. Yeah. That looks good. Looks like a nice ballpark. It should be pretty cool. All right, well, we got Burnsy's bitterness out of the way. I mean, that escalated
by the
quickly.
way. The Bison only have one Power 4 game left on their schedule in the future here, and that is a 2028 game out at Oregon.
Right.
Which I'm sure Dan Lanning is doing everything he can to probably get out of that.
Well, they put there a couple years ago too.
Yeah, the problem is I got to imagine you have to pay them $1 million plus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is $1 million to the University of Oregon?
Yeah, but I'm saying, yeah, exactly. It's anybody's money, but that's the embarrassment that comes with losing. It's like, well, we just saw it. What did who lost the Army and had to pay him?
Kansas State.
Kansas State paid him whatever. I mean,
I remember when the Gophers. Bad. I mean, Army's a legit.
It's not bad, but that's like when you lose to an FCS team and you have to pay them $1 million. They take your money and your win. That's not good. So yeah, I mean, those teams, and this goes back to. Remember when it was at Appy State that beat Michigan? They were FCS, right? With 1AA at that point, yeah.
Yep.
And
first game on Big Ten Network.
And I remember, I think they had a tough time scheduling teams after that, because teams were like, no, we don't want any part of that. Did that come before or after NDSU started beating teams, or is it kind of simultaneous?
That was before.
Yeah,
that was like 2006, 2005, 2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. You play an FCS team. It shouldn't be a huge challenge for you. But again, I go back to, I don't know what you glean from that if you're the Gophers, and you just, it's disappointing that Taylor injured his hamstring. if that's what it is, I assume. But that can happen the first carry against anyone. So it's not like he was in the fourth quarter of a blowout and you can have that. I mean, this was the first quarter, and you're still going to play your starters, even though you probably didn't need to. You're still going to play them to give them some reps.
So if you're looking for a detailed breakdown of Gophers Northwestern State, I couldn't even get through Gopher Gridiron Radio, Burnsy. I tried, and I've fallen asleep like 5 times, and usually it's only like 3 times, as you know. And I don't think
what a glowing recommendation for my dulcet tones, right?
No,
there.
But it takes me usually 2 nights of listening while I fall asleep to get through all of it, and then I'll maybe pop it on in the car as well. I don't think I'm going to go back to the Northwestern State breakdown. You can text me if there's anything I definitely.
I'm sure you and many other people will skip this one, and I understand why.
But as you know, that is my favorite college football podcast, including this one. So I give it my highest recommendation. But this week, maybe you can sample some other things. The headline is the Darius Taylor injury, which we'll see. To me, there's no chance he's playing this weekend, no matter what the hamstring injury is, right? If it's a small one, a mild one, or a major one, leaving the game in the first quarter, never returning. PJ continues to say they've gotten good reports and they've gotten good news. He didn't leave the field at all. There was no ice on it, which we saw at the practice a year ago, right, when he heard it there. But what's kind of your reaction and your outlook here, Burnsy, for running back 1 and his future availability?
It's certainly unfortunate, and the narrative going into that game was, Fleck, what are you doing? 30 carries, 12 on the final drive, and then on the first offensive drive, his 4th carry goes off the left side, should easily get into the end zone, and gets to about the 5-yard line and grabs for his right hamstring. I don't know how much to read into the things that you said. I think you can read into him that he goes into the injury tent, comes out, has a long conversation with PJ Fleck, 90 seconds worth during a TV timeout, never takes off his pads, never puts ice on his hamstring, which hopefully means that we've seen, and we talked about this Sunday morning on Go for Football Sunday, Guardsy. We saw Jalen Logan Redding come out of the locker room with ice.
Right.
Darius never came out with ice. And we asked PJ Fleck about it yesterday at his media. And he talked about how, and I'll use a specific quote, got some good news and the injury report will come out 2 hours before. Now, he continues to say this whole good news bit, or in other direct quotes from him, he said after the game, quote, "It doesn't seem too bad, which is really good. We got a really good positive diagnosis on that." So the hope would be it's just a tweak. And if it's just a tweak, if you want to be Mr. Glass half full, he's probably 50-50 for the game this weekend. If you want to be Johnny Raincloud, we've seen Darius Taylor battle hamstring injuries before. Now, the one last year in fall camp was his left hamstring, not his right hamstring. That happened on August 13th, and he returned, I think, September 7th, so 3-4 week deal. I would say that if this is a significant injury, of which we don't know anything at this time, media doesn't get to watch practice, and Fleck refuses to give injury updates. If this is a 4 to 6 week injury, Fleck's vernacular around continuing to frame it as positive and a tweak is not going to age well to me. But if Darius cannot go, I do think you're going to see a running back committee of the Marshall kid, A.J. Turner, the Washington grad transfer, Cam Davis, and you'll also see the redshirt freshman, Femi Ijiboy. You'll see all 3 of them, I think, mix in pretty consistently against Cal. But Chip, what's your reaction?
Yeah, I think you need to be smart with it, right? I mean, good news can mean anything. Hey, it's not season ending. Could be just a couple weeks. I mean, that's so open-ended. It could mean, anything. So, and PJ's not going to be forthcoming with injury, so it's you have to read into a lot of this. But I think you be careful with it, be cautious, knowing his history, and hamstrings are tricky. Even the good news ones sometimes take, a while to feel better and feel, like yourself and ready to face the Big Ten. So if he sat this week, it wouldn't surprise me. And
with a bye week on the horizon, that is a critical part of the analysis with him, because the training staff knows that he can have 21 days to rest up for Rutgers if it is just a tweak.
That's it. Yeah. And so you have that advantage with that coming, And in terms of behind him, I think you're right, because from all we can tell, I don't think there's an RB2, a clear cut. Now, Turner's, I think his experience, and I like his explosiveness. I think he just has to, kind of figure things out a little bit. But I think he has that burst, and we saw that in camp. Like, wow, this guy has some explosiveness to him. But so it seems smart that they would share those carries because all those guys I think are capable, and you want to get them as much experience as you can in case because injuries happen at position. I mean, what was the year they got down to like the 5th tailback? I mean, so yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm not gonna knock PJ for playing a running back in the first quarter. I mean, even though it's
a series,
even though it's an inferior opponent, yes, you could have said him. That can happen the first drive this week. I mean, it just you got to get it had nothing to do, I don't think, with the opponent or anything. It's you want to get those starters some reps in a game. So disappointing, but hopefully it's not too bad because as we saw in the opener, Darius he's different. He makes his offense versatile. So
if you want to put on the narrative street hat, Guardsy.
Is that why you were smirking?
I remembered the narrative, which was half joking but half serious, and Chip reminded me of it. It's an odd year. 2021 RB5 by October. That was the Kai Thomas and Bucky Irving season. In 2023, Darius gets hurt. They're on RB5 thanks to Sean Tyler and Bryce Williams. Jordan Newbin is getting 200 carries by the end of the season. And now 2025, it's an odd season. Here comes the angry running back god down on the running back room again for Minnesota. I was mostly joking when talking about it all offseason, but I just remembered this is the 3rd straight odd year where odd things are happening to that room, Guardsy.
Well, it's a good thing Derek LeCaptain's back for his 7th year because he had to take carries in that Northwestern game when Bryce Williams, I think, broke his ankle after a really nice run. So
does this mean Grant Washington, who's RB5, who ran for 126 yards,
who looks good, by the way,
which was 3 times more than the total yards by Northwestern State on Saturday, is going to see time by October? Boy, do I hope not. But this is why they tried to mitigate by bringing in better transfers, and Turner, who is going to be an early down back. If you want to do Viking comps, which is a horrible thing to do, I think A.J. Turner is more of your Aaron Jones type on early downs, where Cam Davis is more of a between the tackles runner like Jordan Mason. And I think Feme is kind of a mix of both. So I really hope that Darius is healthy sooner than later, especially with all the vernacular that Fleck is tossing around about promising and good news. But I would be surprised like Guardsy if we do see him this weekend.
Well, what's the name of this podcast, fellas?
Pair and Spare, baby.
Podcast. I mean, there's no accident. You got to have a pair and you got to have a spare. And in 2021, they needed the air. And
2023, they needed the air. And I really hope we're not pulling up to a quick trip going up to the free air dispenser by mid-October.
Yeah, we'll take sponsorships, though, by the way, if any gas station wants to help us out, or any car dealer.
Open for business.
Tire shop is fine as well. The other thing you were concerned about all offseason, Burnsy, was defensive line depth, right? And you loved who they had at the beginning, and I think that's been, proven accurate with how the defense has played through the first 2 games. Certainly the defensive line is extremely disruptive. Anthony Smith looks to be everything he's supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Logan Redding, kind of gets cut, ends up. The good news is they did put a brace on his knee and get him back out on the field at least, right? He obviously did go change at halftime, but I've been around long enough to know that if they're putting a brace on your knee, that's better than putting ice on your knee. And so hopefully even if he misses this week, that's not a long-term thing as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I watched him come out of the injury tent, and he went over near the defensive line and was doing get-offs and trying to see how much stability he had on his knee. I know you saw that as well. So the fact that he came back out and was doing things like that give me optimistic it's going to be a short-term thing, not a long-term he's going to miss the season type of injury. But if you don't have him available, he's your starting 3 technique, things get a little bit more complicated. Now, they did bring in Rushan Lawrence, who you've seen some flashes from in the non-conference, but when you have a 3-4 year starter like Jalen Logan Redding get cut from the backside, which he did on that play, certainly seems like they avoided the worst case scenario, but Their defensive tackle depth is very thin to me, and we're going to find out a lot more if JLR can't go from guys like Rushan Lawrence and Nate Becker, and we'll see if they mix in some other guys there as well.
Is there anything else we want to talk about injury-wise or otherwise before we get to just Drake Lindsey continuing to look pretty solid in his 9 attempts and just kind of spreading the ball all over the field? Anything else? I know, Chip, you don't have any thoughts on Northwestern State, which I'm not judging you for.
Thank you.
You have other things going on. Others might. Burnsy might. I understand. In fact, so much when it started to rain, I said, I'm going up underneath the tunnel. I don't have my rain gear. And so I stood underneath the tunnel with some other Gopher staffers, by the way, and just kind of watched it from the end zone view. And then I felt really stupid because Brady, the outstanding equipment guy, comes sprinting over and hands me my rain jacket that they have for me. It's like, come on back, buddy. I'm like,
do your job.
I'm like, you came all the way over here, Brady. Why did you have to do that and make me feel like the smallest person in the world? Really nice rain jacket, though, I will say. But anything else?
John Nestor looked like he watched tape, which was good. And
I like his competitiveness. I know PJ used that word. I like the fact that he's just kind of on one all the time, which I appreciate. And we wondered about him a little bit, didn't we?
We did, and I think he's going to face some better tests here in the coming weeks. But he doesn't lack confidence in corner to try and be Minnesota's version of Cooper DeJean, Riley Moss, Jason Sehorn, whichever one of the three you'd like to pick.
Jason Sehorn.
He does not lack confidence. I mean, he's got his whole – I'm not entirely sure what the handshaking thing is. I'm too old to understand that reference and with the youths and all that. But I think he has certainly looked the part through 2 weeks, but now they're going to be tested against Cal this weekend.
Let's get to Cal. I know they've got a quarterback that committed to Cal, then committed to Oregon. Now he's at Cal, and he's just a freshman, by the way. All that happened before he even went anywhere. I watched a little bit of the Oregon State game. I haven't locked in on the rest of it. I'll do that a little bit later this week in constant preparations for heading out to the Bay Area. But what do we know about I know you know a lot about this offense, Burnsy, and what left it in the spring and what they're left with now. But I'll say the quarterback, I mean, you don't have to start a true freshman quarterback if you really don't want to. Maybe Cal did, but they also had an Ohio State transfer. So he did beat a guy out for this job. But what do we know about him, and what challenges does Cal present?
His journey to get to Cal is the perfect epitome, I would say, of recruiting in 2025, where he commits to Cal, signs with Oregon, and before he even goes through spring ball, I believe, he hits the portal and comes back to Cal.
I think he went to one of their playoff games on the field and then decommitted, didn't he? Isn't that this kid?
Well, he signed in December, watches some games for them.
Yeah.
And then eventually hits the portal before he even goes through spring ball, if I'm remembering the story right, to come back to Cal. Very bizarre type of situation. Now, I think part of that is because Cal lost their entire offense, of which I'll get through. I also cannot wait to hear Mike Grimm attempt to enunciate this name, because I've been trying here through the first 48 hours of the week, and I'll give it my best shot here. Jaron Kiave. I got this last name. I promise I do. It's Song Iwupolotele. Song Iwupolotele. I'm
nailed it.
That. It's a mouthful, but former top 100 overall recruit in the last recruiting cycle is 6'2" lefty. Looked the part against Oregon State, was making some good throws. And he is the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. Let me just give you a brief glimpse of some of what I'll be talking about in the GI game preview. Chip, here's all of that Cal lost from last year's offense. They're starting quarterbacks at Indiana. Their top two tailbacks are at Oklahoma and UCLA. Let me take a deep breath here for pause. Their tight end is at Texas. And then the following receivers are now at Nebraska, Indiana, UCLA, and Oklahoma. This is me saying they had a great offense, plus they're replacing 4 starters on the offensive line. That was a good offense from last year's team. If everybody in the portal wanted them,
Why didn't they win a national championship last year with all those Power 5 teams or transfers?
It's not like these guys are going to the MAC or FCS. I mean, they're taking a step up.
They're going to legit programs. They were awful in one-possession games last year, which Fleck talked about it Monday. Sounds a lot like a team last year that had 6 guys now on NFL 53-man rosters, yet only won 7 regular season games because they weren't very good in one-possession games. Now, defensively, they're really good. Justin Wilcox has a strong background on the defensive side of the ball. He's their head coach. They're much better defensively than they are offensively, which is why the game total via Las Vegas is sitting at about 41, 42 points. There's not a lot of points expected in this one. And the Drake Lindsay versus JKS freshman quarterback battle is going to be very fun to watch in a Pac-12/ACC /Big Ten after dark type of setting.
Yeah, I mean, even though they lost all that talent, they're still a power forward athletes.
They have a legit defense, and they have a legit quarterback, which you're going to be able to be in so many games if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and it's your first road game going out west. I mean, all those things that come into play. But you're going to have more talent, I would think, and so you should be able to, particularly on your defense going against that offense, Anthony Smith in that line, hopefully Logan Redding is available, but get pressure on him, make that freshman uncomfortable. I mean, everything people talk about that the kid's really talented, they saw it the first 2 games. So, but this is where that defensive line needs to show up. Create those opportunities for the back end, Nestor, Coy, Kerry Brown, those guys to have some turnovers. So, but you're stepping up in competition from the first 2 weeks, and so this is an opportunity and on the road to see what these new guys for the Gophers have shown some things in the first 2 weeks, but this is a step up in competition. Let's see what they do there.
It's a 4-hour flight. It's Minnesota traveling to the Pacific time zone, of which it's a very odd thing, and I'll give some more context with this. Minnesota under PJ Fleck is 3-0 in Pacific time zone games. They beat Oregon State, Fresno State, and UCLA. Now, very different fashions in all 3 of those games. We all can agree. But the other stat I looked into last year, and it's not a perfect comp because nothing ever is. When you look at Big Ten teams last year, Chip, who traveled 2 or more time zones as the road team, there were 28 games of that instance last year. Can you guess how many of those teams won when they had to travel 2 or more time zones?
Yeah, because that stat came up a lot last year, and it was not very good.
We talked about it last year.
Yeah. It was not 28 games. I know it was a losing record. It wasn't very good. I can't remember. I don't know.
I'm going to say 10 teams.
I was going to say 8.
They were 6-22 in 28 games. That is a 21% win percentage. And for Fleck to be able to at least have some sample size of going West Coast games and being 3-0 is interesting because it bucks the trend. It's a very small sample. I understand that. But for a 9:45 Central kick, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of late practice this week. We talked about it with Fleck on Monday. As much as it is 4-hour flight, late kick, I mean, we even see Michigan State, I think next weekend, has an 11 p.m. Eastern kick against USC.
Come on. What are we doing?
DVR that one, Chipper.
Yeah.
Get that one DVR.
Well, it's 10 p.m. Central, I believe, but an 11 p.m. for those folks in East Lansing who want to stay up and watch the Spartans.
This reminds me of it wasn't a late game, but I was on the beat, and the Gophers went out there. It would have been 2006. It was Cupido's senior year, right? But that's when they had Deshaun Jackson, was Marshawn Lynch on that team, Javid Best.
Could have been.
That team was loaded. They were top 10, I think maybe top 10 team that year, and they were really good. And I remember Mace is like, because that was the thing Mace got grief for as a non-conference, and they played that team, and it wasn't as lopsided. The score wasn't as lopsided as the game felt. It felt like Cal kind of left a lot of points on the board, but that team was really good. But I remember it's kind of a weird trip out there. Cool setting. You guys haven't been out to that.
I have not.
there.
No.
Yeah,
I'm looking
it's a
forward
cool.
to getting out there.
Yeah, it's a cool campus and cool setting, so you'll enjoy it.
Well, that's where the last 2 times they played, to your point. It was Marshawn Lynch at Cal destroying them, and then it was Javid Best coming into Minneapolis and running for 5 touchdowns.
No,
This is not that offense anymore. This is a shotgun, 10 personnel, spread it around, balls out quick. This isn't a running type of offense like it was for Javid Best and Marshawn Lynch. So
Yeah,
it's going to be fascinating for Minnesota, who through 2 weeks, their starting defense has not missed a tackle. Cal wants to put you in space and make you make tackles.
Yep.
It's going to be very fascinating to see how Danny Collins attacks this thing.
Are they a spread it out, play sideline to sideline, get it out of his hands quick?
Their leading
tackle
receiver
in
is a
space?
kid from UNLV who's 5'7".
Yeah.
They want to get the ball in space and let those guys go. I get it.
42-17, September 9th, 2006 is the game Chip is talking about. I'm pulling up the box score here.
It's Marshawn Lynch and Deshaun Jackson, not Javid Best, but it was Marshawn and my ears are getting confused. Right?
He'll tell you here in a second.
Yep, I'm going to pull up. I got to scroll down. Marshawn Lynch, 153 yards, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. Justin Forsett had 78 yards.
Forsett,
and then
it was.
Deshaun Jackson was on that team. He had 7 catches, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns.
And who was the quarterback? Was the lefty? No, who was the quarterback there?
It was not Aaron Rodgers. I know.
No, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers. Definitely wasn't Rodgers.
It was, how could you forget? Nate Longshore was the quarterback.
Okay.
22 of 31, 300 yards.
Quarterback name that I'm sure after the game, 5 minutes after, he's out surfing.
19 years ago. All right. I'm old.
Yep. Cupido was 21 of 33, 243, got sacked a couple of times.
Yeah.
Alex Daniels was your starting running back there, 21 carries for 80 yards. Amir Penix
from the pass right there.
Jay Thomas, Justin Valentine.
What were they ranked?
Legend Jay Thomas to you.
Yeah, I love Jay Thomas. Great family, mom and dad, great people. What Cal was? They were top 10, right, or around there?
I'm not seeing that in the box score.
I'm pretty sure they were top 10.
Somehow these two teams have played 6 times over the years.
I think it's because it makes sense for these two teams to play. Yeah. Because it's what we talked about last week. It's schedule kind of an equal. Now, I know Cal was a top 10 team there, but I mean, in 2006, that wasn't a step too far for the Gophers. I mean, Mason,
and when they scheduled that, it's probably 10 years prior, or 8 years prior, so you don't know.
And, the Gophers, that was Mason's final year, right? I think.
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
So, they were good by then, right? They had been, in the top 10 a couple of times. They'd been ranked consistently. So that makes sense to schedule a team like that. And then, they came year 1 or year 2 of Huntington Bank Stadium with Javid Best and whoever else was there.
I know he had 5 touchdowns that day.
By the way, before we recorded today, I talked with Brock Vereen for the Gopher pregame show and the Golden Gopher podcast. His brother played at Cal, and he basically spent every Saturday of his high school career going up to watch his brother play at Berkeley. So anybody that's making the trip out there, and I know there are some, even though there's great choices this year, Berkeley, Columbus, Eugene, Wrigley, if you're a Gopher fan. I mean, that's like 4 legit trips. And, by the way,
Iowa City being number 5.
And Iowa City. I got Iowa City in there too, if you want Busch Lights thrown at your head. I asked him for the scouting report. He said, if you don't have time to go to San Francisco, he says, Berkeley's enough. He says, Berkeley's a very cool place. Like you said, Chip, it's a very cool setting. He said, there are hills everywhere. You will always be walking uphill.
You will be.
He said, downhills don't exist. Basically. He goes, I don't know how that's possible. Shorts and comfortable shoes. And then the other line that he said that I loved was, everyone that lives there is smarter than you. So just go find anybody at a coffee shop, at a restaurant. Just go start talking to somebody and ask what business they've started. And you'll realize quickly how smart everybody is. He said the Mexican food there is the recommendation he would give. But I love that, where he just said, hills everywhere. You're going to walk everywhere. Traffic's a nightmare, but you can walk everywhere. You're just going to be going uphill, and every person you encounter will be smarter than you. I love
That's the greatest scouting report.
My grandfather's stories where he's walking uphill both ways and not a snowstorm here.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because that's the thing I remember is like it was hilly. Wear tennis shoes, because you're gonna as my at Kansas where my daughter went, that's a Healy campus, and they call it the KU Cavs. You're going to get the cow calves when you come back.
Oh, I like that.
Walking you're doing, yeah.
I like that. So there's your scouting report, everybody, for Berkeley. And, yeah, drink your coffee. Stay up late. Over under, Chip, on you. What's the betting line of Chip making it through the game, Burnsy?
I'll put 9 minutes left in the fourth quarters when Chip at about 12:30 finally fights it in the recliner there.
Yeah, if it's a close game, I'll hang in there. If it's one-sided, I'll record and hit the, I'll go to bed and watch it in the morning.
I think it was we sit here today for what it's worth. The Gophers are 2.5 point favorites, and the Vegas is saying something along the lines of 21-20, somewhere in that range. So not a lot of points they're expecting out in Berkeley.
All right, let's pause and we'll go around the Big Ten and talk about a few other things in the world of college football. I want to thank our great partner, Jack's Cafe. We mentioned it at the top of the show. Not one group of people, not two groups of people, but three groups of people were fortunate enough to sit in the Jack's Cafe seats for Saturday's game against Northwestern State. It was a beautiful day until it wasn't. When it rained, the game was shortened. We didn't even talk about that. But they've been great supporters of us. They've been great supporters of you, the Parent Despair audience, and the food is tremendous. We got, I think somebody, I can't remember who it was that tweeted at us, guys. Burnsy, I think you might have been on there as well. They were celebrating something. Maybe it was the Gopher victory. And it looked like the woman was eating the creme brulee, Chip. Is that?
She
I
was.
I know.
Honor.
That
And you had a wedding there over the weekend too.
So we got it twice because there was that one where the woman was eating the creme brulee. Did you see how happy she was too? Like that creme brulee it's outstanding. I'm so happy they got that.
Michael is the one who tweeted us and said she's also a Hawkeye. So not only is she familiar with Guardsy, I'm sure at some point their paths crossed, but she listens to Chip yet and gets the creme brulee.
That's right. So thanks for doing that. And then we saw the
wedding
the group photo where they said post game at Jack's. So
that was great.
I don't know about you guys, but I love when people send us those photos from Jack's, and it because they're having a good time, they're getting a great meal and great service. So keep them coming.
Make your reservations. There's still time for brunch, even though we had like this bizarre North Shore cold snap the last 3 or 4 days.
Now it's going to be in the mid-80s this weekend.
Yeah, summer's back. You know how Burnsy loves the brunch. He loves the patio. We all do. It's tremendous. It's a great setting. Make your reservations at jaxcafe.com, jaxcafe.com. If you can't write it down, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's been right below Chip the entire time. The Parent Despair podcast is presented by Jack's Cafe. Make your reservations at jaxcafe.com. Well, let's talk about the game Chip did watch on Saturday, the Cyhawk game, Iowa and Iowa State. And what's interesting is it was usually Iowa is the beneficiary of some random tipped interception or tipped reception or fumble inside the -5. And this time it was Iowa State on their game-winning field goal that got a very fortuitous forgiving bounce on a pass over the middle that was deflected into the hands of a tight end about 10 yards farther. And they end up kicking a 50-plus yard field goal to win 16-13. I think a lot to discuss from this game, Chipper.
Yeah, but Iowa did. And on their scoring, they had their typical Iowa. Their first field goal came from when the Iowa State punt returner was like an inch from colliding with the Iowa gunner, and they called a muff punt. They reviewed it to see if the Iowa guy touched it. It was kind of a typical Iowa favorable bounce. They get the call, get the field goal. Their touchdown at the end of the first half. They got a penalty that helped them. They took advantage of that. But you're right. Yeah, Iowa State had a couple plays there on that last drive. A wild throw that tipped over and a guy caught it. But a lot of talk about their quarterback Mark Gronkowski coming in from FCS South Dakota State, and I think it was 44 yards passing in the opener. I think they had 80 something this game. It is not good. They're off. You watched him, and I think it's a combination. I mean, he's going to take a lot of the grief, obviously, but he would stand in the pocket and hold the ball and hold the ball and hold the ball and hold the ball.
That last drive was painful.
And it was all game. And I was like, even when sometimes there'd be 3 men rushing, 4 men, but he'd have good protection, and he just would not cut it loose. And I don't know if he's not seeing the field. I don't know if his receivers are not very good and not getting open. I don't know if the scheme there's flaws with it or a combination of all those things, but their offense looks like a typical Iowa offense. I texted you guys, and Burnsy's like, "What year is this?" And I was like, "It looks worse than ever." I thought their defense looked good, and they did a nice job for the most part holding Iowa State. Iowa State, I think, is pretty good. They got some offense. Carson from up here from Lakeville South, the hard runner. Quarterback.
Their QB's solid. He's been there forever.
Yeah, he's been there forever. Rocco back.
Yep.
Yeah. And they get some receivers. I mean, I think they're a good team. Defensive, they shored up some things. They got some guys along the line now. But Iowa, boy, I can't imagine the questions they're facing down there this week, because you thought, hey, you got this quarterback who came in with all these, stats and wins and all the things he did at the SCS level. It just has not translated to their offense yet, and they just look like they didn't have a clue.
Now,
Burnsy, real quick before you go, Matt Zimmer, who covers, at least he did for the Argus Leader. I remember him from when the Gophers played SDSU. Wrote basically something like closed circuit to the Iowa coaches. He threw for 10,000 yards at South Dakota State. Maybe let him air it out a little bit. But then his amendment was, but also the Jackrabbits supporting cast might be better than the one he's playing with currently. So,
I don't think the receivers are helping him out at all. And you're right. Everything was underneath. It was short. It was like, didn't really throw it. Now he can run. You see that. That's a big part of his game. And I think he had a rushing touchdown. I mean, he's a talented runner, but I don't think it's just him. Obviously, he hasn't played well, but I don't think the wide receivers in the scheme are helping him out either.
Iowa was without their RB1. They were without their wide receiver one, and then their tight end one, Addison Estrenga. He left the game and did not return. So they're without some of their best skill position players. But I will reiterate what I texted Chip. What year is it with the Iowa offense where the skill position guys aren't helping the quarterback? And the quarterback looks like he is looking out and seeing absolutely nothing correctly. It looks like he's trying to wade through thick soup when he's looking out, trying to diagnose things, which that was not the deal at South Dakota State. To your point, he ran for, I believe, 39 touchdowns for the Jackrabbits, threw for 10,000 yards. Maybe get the guy outside the pocket and let his legs start to help him a little bit more than try to be a statue within the pocket. But you also look at Bo Prebia down at Missouri, who was the first quarterback that Iowa was involved with transfer-wise in the offseason, and he chose Missouri over Iowa. He looks like the real deal down there at Mizzou for what he did against Kansas last weekend. So with Gronowski, maybe the offseason shoulder surgery on the throwing shoulder, which zapped the entire spring, which then trailed into the summer, is – the rush should maybe have been expected, but to just see him be the current iteration compared to what he was out in Brookings is pretty staggering to me.
Yeah, the thing that jumped out to me was just the indecisiveness, like standing back there and just not really knowing where to go with the ball. And, we don't get the full picture on TV, so you don't see our guys not open. Is he just missing him and not seeing him? It's hard to tell. It's probably a combination of a lot of things, but it just felt like there's a lot of indecision, like where to go to ball, and then they'd throw it short, right? There was nothing down the field. So, yeah, it didn't look like a big change from what we've seen, And I was thinking about this. You're watching that game, and if you're a fan of Iowa, they win 9 games all the time, right? No matter how it looks. But winning's fun. But winning with an offense that really just grinds and struggles and can't, and you're constantly frustrated with it, that would be a weird feeling, right? Where you're constantly complaining about the offense, but at the end of the day, you win 9 games. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. I don't know.
But I think that's how they all feel. They all they're in a weird spot of not knowing how to feel about it.
Yeah.
Because they continue to win. Now, obviously, they just lost last week.
But in general, this is how it's been. Like, you look up and they'll have 9 wins at the end of the season, and you're like, that offense is terrible, but they have 9 wins. So what are you complaining about? Well, it's hard to watch,
The stat that stood out to me that somebody sent to me was, where are we here? Ferentz is 0-10 in his last 10 games versus top 25 opponents.
Wow.
Which actually surprised me, right? Because I think about them knocking off Michigan at Kinnick, knocking off Penn State at Kinnick. We talked about that leading into the Buffalo game, the quarterback that couldn't get the snap off after, Sean Clifford got hurt. Like that's been a while now, even though, like you say, they keep winning games and they've been in the Big Ten. They were in the Big Ten championship game a couple of different times post-COVID. That number jumped out at me that it's 0-10 because, I just feel like it's just maybe my perception of what I've watched the last 25 years. But so that's where I think they're in this weird purgatory of how are we supposed to feel about any of this, and the fact that they've had so much hope now for multiple quarterbacks, going back to Cade McNamara. What a big deal that was when he committed right out of the gate, right? And when NIL was becoming a thing. And now with Gronowski, like, it's just they've had so many false starts, no pun intended, thinking that they finally got the quarterback and the offense thing fixed, and it just hasn't worked out yet. But they'll probably win 9 games this year, and
they do every year.
And they'll beat the Gophers by throwing for 37 yards, and it'll be 11-9, right? Like it'll be such a weird, like, that's not out of the realm of possibilities, right?
Yeah, I do think the defense is pretty good.
What year is
that? Surprise. Yeah.
Still somehow underpaid at $1.9 million a year.
Yeah, surprise. Defense is good.
All right, so they get Massachusetts this weekend.
Fighting Joe Harris-Simiak's come to town, baby.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Narrative Street. You never miss an opportunity for Narrative Street. I'm trying to think, is there, the most compelling Big Ten game, I suppose, this week for our purposes would be Wisconsin and Alabama, right? Two teams, Wisconsin, kind of crushed Middle Tennessee. Alabama, we talked about them. They're kind of a mess right now. My favorite line of the week was from a woman in, I think, Tuscaloosa that said, if she wins the Powerball, she will pay for the $70 million Kalen DeBoer buyout. She didn't win, I don't think, because I think
it means more down there, Guardsy.
Yeah, I think it was Texas and Missouri that had the Powerball winners, for the $1.9 billion. But she went on record, I don't know with who, saying, if I win this Powerball, I will personally pay the Kalen DeBoer buyout of $70 million. So this is an interesting one to me, right? Like, we kind of assumed this would be a blowout loss, Wisconsin and Alabama. Who knows? Maybe Luke Fickell, gets his narrative back by going down there and knocking them off.
Yeah, I did. The Wisconsin game was close Saturday for a little bit, for a half or so.
Close at halftime, and that's a horrendous Middle Tennessee State team who lost at home by 28 points to something called Austin P. The week before.
Don't slander my Tennessee teams. Don't slander the Raiders.
How many colleges are down there? My God.
ETSU, MTSU, Austin P, of course.
Of course,
the one that counts. Vandy. Yeah. Okay.
Vandy.
Tennessee State somewhere in there too.
Yeah, Tennessee State. Yeah. So I don't I don't know if they played great or just played to beat a bad team in the second half and pulled away. But I don't know. I mean,
you want to guess what the line is via Vegas on the Badgers versus Bama?
I bet I'm going to say 14.
Bama by 20.5.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just losing myself in the sweater vest.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, they did play Florida State and they look like a good team in the opener. So they didn't play well and they didn't look like a typical Bama team, but it's not like they lost to a bad team. So 20 is a lot, but I would be stunned if the Badgers go down there and pull off an upset.
What else do we need to talk about, Burnsy? What else is going on in the college football world? I know Chip wanted to talk Kansas, Missouri again.
Yeah, my alma mater.
I'd rather get to that story because when he explained it to us, and you and I don't think had heard this from over the weekend.
I remember it, yeah.
I hadn't heard it. This sounds like the perfect epitome of college football.
So why do we love rivalries, right? The hatred, the bad blood, and having gone to Missouri and graduated from there, I know the rivalry of Kansas. And I'm glad they're playing them, even though they're not same conference anymore, and renewed that rivalry. But so there was a, I don't know who put on how they always have this pick a fan, come kick a field goal, try to win. Normally it's a student and you get to throw the balls and try to either through the hoop or kick a field goal for tuition or whatever. But I think it was Instagram I read, but $25,000 if you could kick a 45-yard field goal.
Can we pause there?
Yeah.
Can we pause there?
Yeah.
If someone in the crowd, especially a student, can kick a 45-yard field goal, he should be on the team making
He's on
$300,000 in NIL money.
That's
Don't
right.
you think?
He's on scholarship.
What a ridiculous contest.
I know.
What a ridiculous because if the guy kicks a 45-yard field goal, he's clearly missed his calling as just a rube. He could be like that was it the Hawaii kicker that just taught himself on YouTube?
Yes.
He could be like that guy.
Week.
But anyway, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, the guy who won it was 35, so obviously college has since passed him. But, rightfully so, he realized there's no way in hell I'm making a 45-yard field goal, so I might as well be epic with this. So he's a Missouri fan. He goes out there, raises his shirt as he's lining up to kick the field goal. It has a derogatory thing about KU on his chest, painted on his chest or shirt. Lines up to kick the field goal. Says not, turns, kicks the ball straight at the KU sideline. He rifles the ball at the KU sideline, pulls up his shirt. It says, whatever, KU. Crowd goes nuts. That guy's not going to have to buy a beer in Columbia, Missouri for the rest of his life. How epic is that?
It was
you're
great.
You're not going to win this contest. Might as well go down in glory.
That was a great game, too, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
That was a really good game. Kansas took the lead late, the Fighting Jim Zabrowskis, and then Missouri had a couple of fourth downs, right, to go ahead and win it. And I loved what their coach said, that we ask a lot of our fans financially and with a big time investment and all this. He goes, it's right that we give them an opportunity for a bragging rights game like this, because it clearly – I don't know that rivalry firsthand like you do, Chipper, but it does seem like there's a lot going on there.
Oh, it's
so it's great.
War.
It's great.
It's a border war. I mean, there's a lot of hatred between those two states and programs, and so when it went away, when Missouri went to SEC, is a lot of disappointment. So I'm glad that they're renewing it, because this is what those games are what make college sports great, right?
Right.
Playing for the Axe, playing for the Pig, playing for trophies. To have that rivalry and have a guy come out of the stands and kick a ball at the sideline instead of the field goal.
As a 35-year-old, too. That's the thing. He's a fully grown adult.
I read the story.
You act like that.
The Kansas City Star got the guy on the phone, and apparently whoever the contest people who put it on were like quickly trying to get him off the field after.
I was about to say, the poor promotion staff.
He felt bad about that.
Earful from some associate athletic director because of all this.
He said he felt bad about, duping the
Yeah, but here's what I'll say. You bring a guy with no legs out to kick a 45-yard
that was the other
goal,
thing. He was an amputee.
What do you think's going to happen?
He had a prosthetic leg. And a 45-yard, bring anybody. 45 yards, come on.
It was crazy. Buffalo, the place went nuts because they finally got a kicking for chicken winner, Chick-fil-A. The guy knocked down a field goal, and the guy this week was not quite as good.
Yeah.
So everybody got free Chick-fil-A 2 weeks ago. They had to settle for fries this past Saturday. That's hard. Kicking a field goal is hard.
Yes.
45 yards is that's just insanity. That's just pure insanity. All right. Well, have a great college football Saturday, everybody. If you need me, I'll be in Berkeley all day.
Yeah, we got to figure out something to do during the day there.
We need to take a nap is what we need to do. I'm going to change my best from UCLA, where about 3:00 Pacific, I'm like, oh man, I screwed this up. I'm tired. I took like a 12-minute nap before we got there. You're worried about oversleeping. But yeah, make sure you have a plan like the football team does. As Burnsy mentioned, it sounds like they're practicing a little bit later this week. It's a different plan. I'm curious about the PJ Fleck plan to go out west this time. Apparently it's different than what they've done in years past. So we will hopefully get some details on that, and we'll see how it affects them at 9:45 Central Saturday night at Cal Berkeley, the hilliest place in America, according to Brock Vereen. Good to see you guys. Please tell a friend about this. Please subscribe. Please leave a rating. Please go to Jack's Cafe, and we will talk to you next week on the Pair and a Spare podcast.